There's so much to talk about these days. There are so many topics. We don't really have to worry about running out of topics, right? But the most important thing that, people kind of overlook is mental health. And it is so important because mental health, as in our previous podcast, we were talking about, how people might use terms like depression and anxiety very lightly. Now we are going to talk about it in a wider sense, mental health. So, mental health, there are so many terms that we relate when we talk about mental health. So just like I mentioned, depression, panic attacks, anxiety, PTSD. But is mental health just that? Is it that we need to have some sort of a disorder to have issues with our mental health? Or we only need to go to a counselor or a psychologist only when we have, anxiety? No. We can go to them just like in a general sense, just like how we go to doctors. We go for a regular health checkup sometimes. We go there because maybe our BP kind of feels low or we don't feel that great. So we go to them.
Maybe just for those general checkups.
Exactly.
There's yearly checkups that you're supposed to do.
Like, am I eating healthy? Am I doing good in my day-to-day lives? You just go for a regular checkup. But doesn't our mind need that? Just because our physical body needs it doesn't mean our mental health doesn't.
Absolutely. But why people don't do that? It's because of the stigma.
Exactly.
Even in today's generation, there are so many people in the world that stigmatize mental health.
Exactly.
You tell someone that I'm not okay, the first presumption is that you're sick. You have a fever, you have a cold, or you have some disease.
Exactly.
But sometimes you're physically completely fit. You can run a marathon.
But you're not fit over here.
You're not fit in your mind. You're not fit in your heart. You're not fit inside.
When we say that, I feel sick and I don't feel nice, they always need to know the reason. They ask you, what is the reason? There must be a reason. Did you not sleep well? Did you not eat well? Do you feel feverish? But can't we just feel bad for no reason at all?
Exactly.
And even if we might think it's no reason at all, we may be mentally drained. We may be exhausted. And that doesn't mean physically exhausted. We may run just like you said, we may run a marathon, but we may not be able to think a lot at the same time. We may not be able to have a really long conversation at times because we're just mentally drained at times.
Exactly.
And people don't understand that. And the funniest part, you just said stigma, right? Around mental health. The first thing, if someone says that, I think I should go and see a counselor because I feel like I have a lot of stuff to vent and I just need a bit help in that. What? Are you psychologically ill? Oh my God. And the thing is, I really don't like how people mention this so casually, but they say, are you autistic? And do you really think that's the way you treat autism? Do you really think that's how funny and lightly you should take these things?
Now that brings me to another point, which is the lack of the education or the lack of knowledge about mental health.
Exactly.
People just associate mental health with the terms that they regularly hear. Depression, anxiety, stress, panic attacks. But such conditions are usually diagnosed.
Exactly.
And you can't just have depression for every little reason.
You need to be
life.
diagnosed with depression to actually have depression. You can't say that I'm depressed just because you got less marks. You can't say I'm depressed just because life didn't work out the way you wanted it to.
Exactly. Because I remember I once have dealt with a person. I was with a friend of mine and she actually got a panic attack. And I'll be very honest with you, I got scared. Like, what am I supposed to do? Because she was so vulnerable at that time.
Right.
I was like, how am I supposed to help her?
Exactly.
Feel better. And then, as far as I know, when you get a panic attack, it's not that just your heart starts racing faster. It's also your vision gets blurry. You're not able to think properly. Some people cannot even, they're not familiar with the surroundings. They can't hear the person in front of them.
You slowly get unconscious and more unconscious, like moment by moment.
But now, like recently we got our results, right? In the office, when we all were waiting, at least 20 people told me, I'm going to get a panic attack right now.
Right.
As if you're just standing and you're just going to get it out of nowhere.
And as if it's that easy.
It happens.
Exactly.
Yes, I understand. You're stressed. You're worried. But that just does not mean you're going to get a panic attack. Or maybe if you got like less marks in some subjects, you're in like immediately, you just saw the result and you're immediately in depression. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
And that is the problem, that people have very little knowledge about what mental health is or what mental health disorders are.
Exactly. And to get more awareness, they first need to be ready to hear. They always say that, let's say a family member of ours is going to a psychologist or a counselor for help. Immediately that person says that they are not mentally sound, and that is why they are going to a psychologist. Because why else would you want to spend your money on a psychologist? But that's not how things work, right? I may not be feeling well, and that's why I want to talk it out. Just rather than talking with my friend, I may feel that I need professional help. But people don't seek for professional help, and this is a very this is something that people take very lightly. They say that, oh, I'm a counselor at my house. I listen to everyone and I give them advice. Well, that is amazing. That is great that you can give them advice.
But then what's the point of a person taking a course, taking a degree for counseling if everyone can just do it?
Because professional help is obviously way different than how much we can help them. And the best way we can help them is to support them in their decision of seeking professional help.
Yes.
Because sometimes, rather than leading ourselves into depression, PTSD, panic attack, we should rather go to a professional to seek help. And there's nothing wrong in that. There's so many surveys done, and those surveys show us that in India, mostly it's like doctors are God. Yeah. Everyone goes to them and everyone treats them like,
they're worshipped.
They worship doctors. But if you go to foreign countries like USA, or if you go to like UK, you go to those places, right? Over there, it's completely the opposite. It's like almost every adult is going to a counselor or a psychologist. So does that mean everyone in UK or US is mentally ill, or they're not emotionally sound? Nothing like that.
Absolutely not.
They are going because they just want help with their life, and they want it in a professional way. They want to deal with it. It's not like they want to ignore it. And that is like something that people need to be aware about, not just in India, but everywhere. Because if you're not aware about it, be open to these ideas. Because mental health these days is like the main thing. After everything that has happened in the world, after COVID came by a storm and, took us by surprise, it has taken a toll on our mental health, right? Even as children, there are sometimes there's so many more things we understand now that we've gone through those 2 years of, like, if I say so myself, hell, right? So there's so many things that we understand more now. We are more mature to a lot of topics now. And having awareness, there are so many kids who have social media awareness and they are talking about it, just like us, right? But now you also need to be aware of mental health. You can't take it so lightly like you used to before. And if a friend of yours is going through something, you should really be more sensitive to that topic. And even when we talk about stuff like autism, is it really that funny to talk about?
Absolutely not.
Because you never know what that person is going through. Exactly.
The person by themselves is already going through something.
Exactly.
And instead of helping them out, you're laughing at them.
Exactly.
Try to put yourself in the shoes of that person.
Just the whole world laughing at that person when they're just trying to do what they're good at. And you
it's
do
not
that
like they asked to be autistic.
Exactly.
They were just born with it.
And it's such a sensitive topic which people think it's nothing. And they think that autism is a person who's just mentally crazy. They think that they have to be in a rehabilitation center if you are autistic. That is not how it works, right? And there are so many people around us who might they might need extra help compared with what we need. Can't we just help them? How hard it is. Just like in our previous podcast, we talked about how listening is so important. Just like that, helping is so important. Being kind to someone is so important, right? Like if you talk about fighting for the right cause, you can't fight for something like this, and it's not like we're asking you to fight.
Yeah.
Like we're asking you to support. And it's such a big thing. And especially with mental health, that is kind of what forms us as human beings. Our how we are mentally. Everyone's brain is different. Everyone's mindset is different. The way we think is different. The way we perceive things is different. And exactly like that, the way we deal with things is different, right? The way I might be going through the same situation that you are going through, but the way I deal with it is different than how you deal with it, right? And the way I take few things or few challenges in my life is different than how you take it.
How you talked about in foreign countries, adults, they seek professional help because they're going through a lot of stuff on their part. But now that I think about it, not just adults, but even our friends, teenagers, there are several, and I mean a lot of factors that happen in their life, lot of instances, lot of things in school, at home, outside, in general, that goes on in their life, which leads them to fall into, a state of mental health which is not feasible.
True.
Or just not healthy in general.
Exactly. How this is a very major issue in most of the countries, bullying, right? And that is like an external factor that most of us go through in our life. Bullying at school, bullying in workspace. Anytime, there's so many bullying happening everywhere in our life, any aspect of our life, and that takes a toll on our mental health, just like you very well mentioned. So, cyberbullying, even if, let's say you're a homeschool child, but if you're on internet, so cyberbullying, right? So, people, there's so many ways to bully these days,
and
right?
social media plays a very important role.
Exactly.
If you're on any social media platform, there is a very high chance for you to be bullied for anything and everything.
Exactly. You voice your opinion and you're bullied,
you're
right?
criticized.
You're bullied for your looks. You're bullied for the way you do stuff. You're bullied for your culture, your beliefs, your values. So
and that is why mostly the marginalized communities or communities that face a cultural barrier, you'll see that they have more mental health disorders as compared to people who are termed as the general group of people.
And even the general group of people, they go through so many things in their day-to-day lives, and not just bullying, but there are so many other factors, right? Just work stress. There's a lot of post-traumatic disorders, right? You go through some trauma and then you have that in your head and you have basically surpassed that time, but that moment is still there with you, right? So there's so many things that might take a toll on our mental health. Past experiences, present experiences, worrying about future, all these things, just time in general. Okay, running out of time, too much time. There's every time we think of something, it's like, there's always something that's making us worry. And that worry, that overthinking, all those things kind of take a toll on our mental health.
Exactly. And now that I think of social media, you might be sad. I don't want to mention terms such as depression and anxiety because, let's be honest, not everyone deals with it, but they believe that they deal with it. But that's a completely different topic altogether. Let's say you're already very sad about something that has happened. On social media, you see something which makes you even sadder. You start overthinking about it.
Yeah.
You skip that, you go to another post. Maybe for 3-4 posts, you're fine. But then again, you see something. So what is usually termed as excessive screen time is what I would like to call excessive load of sadness. You're already sad and you're just adding up to it.
Exactly. And it's not just social media, but with all the conversations we have with our friends and our family,
people sometimes in general, I feel.
Yeah, people in general, like any conversation you have, you start thinking about that conversation over and over again. Maybe that one line stayed with you in that conversation. Then you start overthinking again and again. And it's not that you took it in a negative sense, but just thinking about something for a really long time may lead to changing the meaning of that sentence, right? And it's very normal. we do that as well, right? But that can also affect our brain's way of thinking at times. It can also affect the way we perceive things, and that is completely normal. But then giving it a term, that is not good, right? Because we obviously go through stuff. When we end a relationship with someone, when we are going through some bad result day, and when we are going through a bad day and we feel very irritated, we give it a name. Like, today is such a bad day, I'm so depressed, right? Depression is not something that comes and goes, right? And you need to understand that. And being aware about it is also very important, because people who actually go through it, you never know how their world must be feeling at that time, and they still have to cope up with it, and they still have to let their life moving, let their life going. They still have to work, but with all of that in their mind. And I feel as students and as children, the best thing that I can say that might help, at least what I do when I have a bad day or when I'm going through something, is that I try to do something completely opposite of my mood. Okay, it's obviously good to feel your feelings. You should cry about it, you should vent, and you should share. And if you want some alone time, you should take some alone time out without giving those alone times a term that I'm depressed, so I need to be alone. No, without all of that. Just think that I'm feeling down and I'm just not feeling myself, so I need some time alone. Or maybe you want some time with your friends and your family, and you want to kind of divert yourself from whatever has happened. But I would recommend, don't listen to depressing songs and sad songs and then just be like, oh, I'm so depressed, I need to kind of lay down and I need to kind of get into that mode. Obviously, if that helps you process your emotions, then you should do it. But if you want to listen to sad songs to stay in that emotion, don't do it.
Not healthy.
And because music, it's the best thing ever.
Music heals.
Yes, it heals us in a lot of different ways. And rather than making that something that takes a toll on your mental health again, you should let it help you, right? And I feel like there are so many other factors that can help you through whatever you're going through. And let's not take these terms like depression, PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks very lightly. Because honestly, the person who's going through it, we don't even know, we can't even imagine what their world must be feeling like. And rather than thinking that we are going through it, or rather than commenting on people who are going through it, we should rather be more sensible and more sensitive to these issues, and we should help those people and help ourselves by motivating our own selves and our friends, and rather than just kind of demotivating them by saying that, oh, so you're mentally ill, or I am depressed. Let's not, use those terms.
So there's just two factors that honestly every single one of us should be aware of. One, if you don't feel well mentally, do not be hesitant or do not be afraid of the judgment that you're going to get or the criticism that you're going to face if you seek professional help.
Very true.
Because it truly, truly may help you become better.
Exactly.
And for the people that, just generalize terms of mental health disorders, for them, please do not create a stigma around this.
Exactly.
It's completely okay to not be okay sometimes. And that just is going to help your friend or your family or someone you know, or even someone you don't know, who is going through something mentally. It may just help them feel a little bit better, knowing that you're with them through their journey of recovering.
And one advice I would like to give you, that my adults in my life have advised me throughout, is that when sometimes you get affected by others' actions and you say that is why it took a toll on your mental health, follow this. Let them. They are talking about you, let them. They're affecting you in some way, let them. They're doing something and they are kind of repressing your thoughts, let them. Don't let it affect you and who you are, and always put your mental health first, and don't let anyone else's mental health took a toll because of you. This is all for today's podcast. Hope you enjoyed our podcast today and you found it helpful.
And for more such content, do tune in into our channel. We'll see you again next time.